Welcome to another episode of the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast, your source for actionable real-life examples and advice to help you move to the next level of investing. Each week, we help you make a quantum leap in your business, your finances, and/or your life. We want to help you take back control, help you thrive during chaos, and lead you through the current crisis to a better tomorrow. For more resources, check out smartrealestatecoach.com and be sure to give us a rating and review on your favorite platform.
Good morning and welcome, wicked smart listeners. This is Chris Pree, your host again. I'm bringing to you today another FamilyCast. You know, we haven't done FamilyCast in a while, and this week was privileged to do two of them. And it's really cool because it's more personal. It's either someone on our team or a family member or one of the community members, the Wicked Smart community members. And today we're bringing you Tim and Sandra Smith from upstate New York. I met Tim and Sandra at a RIA event that I spoke at, a very small one, during a frigid cold December of 19 before COVID hit. And they had life events going on and family members they were taking care of. So long story short, they rekindled their interest in us and came to one of our live events. And here we are. They recently closed their first creative deal with us. And I say creative deal because they've been in real estate for a while, as you're going to hear. And during the chat, we do drop some things like the events and different services that they've used. So you'll get the links for those. But I think it's important you understand their journey because their journey is not without challenges. We just barely touched the surface here, but as recently as the morning of this interview, they were dealing with a lot of stuff and they don't let it stop them. They could easily have canceled going to a couple events, as you'll hear. They could have easily canceled this interview, frankly, with everything they have going on. And so it's a huge testament to their commitment. And I want to let them tell this story a bit and why they came to the community, how that came about, and some of the nuances with this deal, along with my son, Nick, and partner, who has specialized on the buyer side of the equation since back in 2014 with me. Enjoy the interview. Okay, guys, with that as a little background, Tim and Sandra, welcome. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. Good morning. Nick.
Good morning. Good morning. I don't know when the listeners are going to be hearing this, but let's stay with the good morning, which I do on every show. Tim and Sandra, quick background. I'd rather have it coming from you than me doing the intro. That's why I didn't do it. Quick background on you guys, what you do for JOB, and then when you joined the community, and maybe a little bit of why, like what was going on then. Because I forget, right? Every time we bring someone on these family casts, I forget what their background was. So over to you for a couple minutes here.
Sure. I am a registered nurse working in a hospital. And Tim was an analyst for many years and is...
Yeah, I recently left my job due to like medical issues. So, I was an analyst for 27 years for a company, major company.
And we've been doing real estate since we first got married back in the late 80s. We have done a little bit of everything. We've done flips. We've done long-term holds, creative financing. Even before we got introduced to your community, we were doing some transactions on our own. So we've dabbled in quite a few different areas.
Yeah, you guys are unique in that sense. Unique in that like 90-something% of the people that come in the community had no experience or dabbled and didn't do a deal, right? That's been the case with a lot of people. And you guys were different. You had some deals going on. Wait a minute. I just learned something I never knew. What year did you guys get married in?
87.
Okay, we were 86. I got you beat by 1 year. So you guys have been kicking around for almost as long as us. That's good. Congrats.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Thanks.
Okay, and then Sandra, you're still super active in your W-2. So share that a little bit because everyone's like, how do I do this with my with what's going on? Just talk about that a little bit.
It has challenges. Definitely, I work long shifts in nursing. It's typical to do the 12-hour shifts, which become 12 and a half, which with commuting, it's your entire day. So you really have to be well organized in order to manage things. And it's helpful because we're a team. So on the days that I'm still working my W-2, if it's something critical, hopefully Tim can pick up on that. He's limited on what he can do, but it's nice to have that resource out there that if a call needs to be made or something urgent comes up, that there's a chance that he can attend to it for us and keep things going.
Yeah, you have a backstop. Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about your deal. I don't want to say your first deal because you guys have been doing deals for years, but your first deal with the community, right? I think this was the first. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the source of that deal and when that first call took place and a little bit of the background to set it up. And then Nick will chime in as he sees openings too here to either ask a question or to add to it, right?
So this transaction came off of MyPlusLeads. It was an expired listing. The seller had become a first-time landlord. She had bought this multi-unit and had not ever been a landlord before. Her first tenant was challenging for her, and she ended up having to evict them. They also caused damage to the property, and it really had some work that needed to be done to even put it on the market, and she wasn't able to take care of those things. And that was one of the reasons why it didn't sell on the traditional market, as well as, not having a lot of equity because it was a newer purchase for her. She had it just short of 2 years.
Okay. And how long? Oh, by the way, so it sounds like tenants actually do potentially, perhaps maybe destroy houses. I didn't know that actually happened. You guys, all you listeners out there, please, I know this will step on some toes, but I did a video on YouTube once and the title was Stop Renting Your Property. And of course, I got all kinds of flack for it. You don't understand. I'm a buy an old person. That's all great, but there are different ways of doing this so you don't have to have those headaches. How long was it on the market for? You got it as an expired, I think you said.
Oh, gee. I'm not sure. 3 to 6 months, maybe.
Okay. All right. And then, so challenges with her doing that, probably would net nothing or little if she sold it conventionally. So you put on her agreement. Do you remember when? I know you've had all kinds of headaches. I shouldn't say headaches. Normal curveballs with this transaction too.
November
24.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it closed last week with the buyer, Nick. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so talk about any nuances that you guys got, because you've been at this a while. Was there anything different in the seller side of things? And if not, we can transition to the buyer side, of course.
The issue with the seller side was we basically had to go in and do some work on the property just to protect the property. There were broken windows and issues with items that needed cleaned out that she really wasn't able to take care of. And it took the burden off of her by us stepping in and taking care of that. It wasn't a significant amount of work that we had to do, but there were things that had to be done to protect it from the elements as well as
Infestation.
Yeah. So, we took care of all those issues and then we moved forward on it. And it just took a while for us to close with getting the attorneys on board and making sure everything was buttoned up tight.
A couple things come to mind there. I didn't say, my bad, what market you guys are in. If you could just tell the listeners what market you're in geographically.
We're outside of Buffalo. This property is actually in the city of Buffalo.
Wait a minute. So I flew to you guys. This is all coming back to me now. It takes a little bit. I flew out there and did that RIA talk. What was that? December of 19? Was that before COVID?
It was before COVID, yes.
Wow.
I think at the time that we had first met you, we were intrigued with what you guys were offering. We, at that time, were taking care of my father-in-law, who was terminal and was in his last stages of life. And so we put it on the back burner thinking, we would revisit it, and then COVID hit. And so we took no action until after COVID.
Yeah, I now I remember because I met you guys at the event. So let's do this. I want to come back to the event because you guys have been there live. Let's talk about the buyer side. You put on the market. Everyone wants to know, can I actually get these things sold? I'd like to know what you did with Nick, and Nick chime in to get sold. Did you go through the service? Did you do it on your own? And how long did it take? Any nuances you and Nick want to share?
Yeah, we put it on the market and used the service through the Wicked Smart community, as well as doing some Facebook and Craigslist. We had an abundance of leads for people that were well qualified, interested in the property. It was not a difficult sell because of the way it's structured, for, a tenant buyer to come in. It afforded a lot of great opportunities for people that couldn't go the traditional route. And that was the easiest part of our transaction, was finding the buyer.
Nice. I should have said this too. You guys bought this sub too, so although that's probably not outside of deals you've done before, selling on a rent to own is probably new for you guys, right?
Yeah, we had done owner financing in the past, not rent to own.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so no surprise to me, right? Nick and I just had another family cast we filmed, and the community member Dave said the same thing, flooded with calls. So then it just becomes utilizing the system, right, to sift through, to let the cream rise to the top. Nick, do you want to talk about the system a little bit? Just because, again, I don't want to make any assumption that the Wicked Smart listeners gets this whole piece we're talking about, and some people are like, what are they talking about, right? So you got 80% of the market that can't qualify. You get all these calls coming in. They're not all great. So how do we sift and sort? And then maybe Sandra can comment after you.
Sure. Yeah. 10,000-foot view, the process that we want to take all calls, all inquiries and messages through is from the initial call is, hey, you called the Better Home 123 Jump Street. It's available through a rent-to-own program, and a rent-to-own program is not a great fit for everyone. So first, before we get you in there for a viewing, want to make sure that you've had a chance to see our website. The answer is usually no, and you give that to them and then say, great, have a look when you're there at the How Does Rent Home Work video first to determine if it's a good fit for you still. And then if it's still a good fit for you, give me a call back and we'll get you in there for a viewing. So then you're going to have less people call back. And even if you have a lot of people call back, you can do a little more pre-qualifying and make sure they actually watch the video, because some people will tell you they did and they won't have actually seen the video. But then the people, generally speaking, who call back, you're going to arrange viewings for them. They get into the property for a viewing. And then you instruct them if they're interested in taking the next step. They want to fill out an application. You get that to them prior to going into the home. And then if they're interested after they see it, they fill the form out and get them back to you.
Sweet. And Sandra, Tim, any, I guess I'll say ahas or nuances in the buyer process, just because you've been at real estate so long? Anything that came up to you went, oh, wow, I didn't think of that, or, I didn't experience that ever. Anything at all with working with Nick or the buyer, right? Just the whole process.
I would say the one thing that strikes me the most is the fact that when under our normal, the other real estate that we've done in the past, we would usually pre-qualify the people tighter than before we even show the house. So I was working with Nick, and Nick had recommended that we don't do that at that point, and we wait until the people see the house and are excited about the house, and then qualify them by giving them the form and so forth, and go from there. In the past, when I just have a regular rent, a long-term rental, I would make sure that the applicants were qualified before they even walked in the door, before I bothered setting up an appointment, because we do get a lot of interest in this area. I think there's more renters in this area than there are properties available, and it just seems like the phone rings off the hook in this area. So we do real well from that standpoint. It's very competitive in this area for that reason. Lot of investors in this area.
Rent to own, Tim and Sandra, because rent to own in general, like, people buy similar to all of us, but I don't find in most markets there's a ton of rent to own specialists that know what the heck, like, to do it the right way. Are there in your area?
We have a couple groups that are active in rent to own, which is kind of unique in our area, I think. We just have had people that have kind of network together and learning from each other. And so I think it's a little more common than other areas of the country. I mean, there's still tons of room for growth and development, but we're not the only ones doing this type of transaction.
And the other thing that was very attractive about the program is the fact that, being, in the past, when we have the other rentals, longer term rentals, there was work. I mean, it isn't passive income like a lot of people think. There's work involved as a landlord. You have to pick up a hammer and do the work. And, but with this, the way that's structured, the tenant buyer is responsible for the maintenance of the property. And that was one of the big attractions of the whole process.
Yeah. Nick, there's plenty that come to mind, but there's many community members that come in, have already in their portfolio, say a single family. I think of Jose, Nick, who he was about to turn over a rental, did some repairs because they beat it up a little bit, and we converted that to 3 paydays worth like $83,000, and he since cashed that house out. So it's just a different environment, Tim, to your point.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's talk about the buyer. Like, why did the buyer need this? And by the way, I think if there's people in your area that are doing rent-to-own, that's a plus for 2 reasons. Buyer awareness, right? Oh yeah, I saw no one over there, that company. And 2, people could send you buyers. So talk about the buyer makeup. Like, why did they need the rent-to-own program?
It was actually a pretty unique situation. The buyer was a current renter, young couple, and they had foster children, and they needed the room. Now, this was a double. This was a 3-1 double, upstairs, downstairs apartments. It could be used as, the way the stair layout was, it could be used as a single unit, just with an extra kitchen. What? Pardon me?
They took it all because of the situation?
They took it all. So that's the way we marketed it. We marketed it as a property that was ideally for a large family or a family willing to consolidate that, is looking for an in-law situation or, a relative living there. And we got a lot of interest in, people that fit that mold. So that was interesting. That was another thing that was interesting about this process was, because I had my doubts up front when it was a double, given the fact that how are we going to structure this and everything? And then I went through it with Nick, and he explained the process with me, how we would do this. And obviously it worked out well.
We've had, Dad, you can probably remember, we've had a lot of our properties sold to a lot of buyers that are families consolidating and just bringing incomes together and down payments together. And so this has worked out for a lot of families that are consolidating and looking to do something together.
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. The rent to own, I love for that group. For some reason, there's a lot of that going on now with consolidation and or in-laws, etc. And number 2, I love it for rehabbers. Let's face it, there's a lot of rehabbers. And Tim and Sandra, you've been around this business. There's a lot of rehabbers, small ones mainly, mom and pop, that they're not bankable because they don't want to show a lot of their income, right? So they end up being a great fit for some of our properties that need work. We don't typically do a ton. You guys had to save that house, but generally speaking, we don't do a ton of work because we leave that on the table for them. So it's the rental program is so unique for a myriad of reasons. Nick, anything else I'm not touching upon as far as this deal? Because you were involved in this one. I was not.
No, it was just entertaining with these particular buyers at the buyers meeting. Just how they bantered and went back and forth with each other, and the whole process was certainly fun.
And what did the screening tell us, you guys, for the time frame for these buyers to be cashed out? Not that, I mean, you own it, so it's okay, but what did they come back with for a screening process? Time.
Off the top of my head, I thought it was like 18 or 24 months.
24.
24, yeah, and we did a 24-month lease, and because Tim and Sandra own it, subject to they close on and everything, which is another point we probably want to mention. But because they own it, we're just not going to push the buyers when they're in there. We still gave them the pathway to be able to be successful and get their own loan and everything. We're just not going to push them. There's no reason to. It doesn't benefit Tim and Sandra to do that. Just an important point. I remembered it, Tim. You and I were speaking. I thought it was back, if memory serves me, in January, and you said, "Well, wait, don't we have to close on it before we can put it on the market?" And I said, "No, Tim, because you and Sandra have equitable interest in the home, therefore legally we can market it for a buyer." And they were able to luck out and get a buyer right away, almost right away. And then push came to shove, and they had some issues closing it with communication with the attorney. But when they closed on it, we had the buyer ready to go, ready to sign. So it all happened very smoothly.
Yeah,
If you want to, Tim, talk about that a little bit, and Sandra.
Yeah, that element worked real well. Being proactive and finding and screening the buyer, and have them locked and loaded, ready to go. That made a big difference.
Did you guys make your deal contingent upon a buyer? I didn't ask that, or you just had the deal set up no matter what, and that happened to be good timing?
We had the deals set up no matter what.
Got it. So yeah, great timing, and that obviously you can do that a lot of times with some delays, right? Real estate gets delayed and it's acceptable. Okay, can we pivot here? And then if I forgot to ask anything, you guys can both chime in. QLS Live, the event itself. I say there's a wicked smart listener right now. They've never been in the community, let alone at an event. You guys experienced at least a couple, I think. So comments on the QLS Live event that now is coming up in Boston, October, it's either the 5th or the 6th for 2 days. Any comments on that? Like, why should they go there? What's behind the curtain that you might want to share from the heart, whatever comes to mind?
It's a great mix. It's a great mix of traditional real estate as well as mindset. Critical to any pathway to success is mindset. So the speakers are motivational as well as you're taking tools back home with you to keep you on that trajectory. The networking is amazing. The people that you'll meet, the little golden nuggets that you pick up by networking with people that are like-minded. It's a real stepping stone to moving forward. It's something that if you're part of the community, you don't want to miss it. You want to make sure that you plan that as part of your yearly events.
Yeah, and for the list, thanks, Sandy. And for the listener, this event, it'll populate more and more. It's early, so go to QLSlive.com and you'll see the info. And as it gets closer, you'll see more info. But the basics are there. It's going to be in Boston. It's a really cool environment for 2 days. Super professional. We feed you. I don't know. I say it every event. I don't know anyone feeds them like we do. It's like gourmet food there now. It's a little bit nuts. But that's what we do. So you got to come at least have a good meal with us or two. And rub elbows with Sandra and Tim and other people that you can say, hey, how was it for you? I promise you there's someone in that room that is going through or went through what you're trying to accomplish. And it just helps a lot. I didn't want to forget to drop the link for Prosperity too. So you guys mentioned you did utilize Prosperity for the service on marketing the property, and everybody gets caught up in it until they sell their first one and they go, okay, it was easier, like Sandra and Tim said. So we use a company, used to be third party. Now we've since purchased the company as of October of 24, and it's called Prosperity. Go to prosperity.io. If you are a landlord, it doesn't have to be in the creative real estate space. If you're a landlord, this company will, in our world, it'll market the property for you. That's what Tim and Sandra alluded to. But then once you do that, it becomes sort of like a quasi property manager. It collects via the portal from your tenant or tenant buyer. So if you're a landlord, you can utilize the service too. It then pays the mortgage and then pays, if you're in our community, distributes profits to the community member and us. Does it all. Back in the day, Nick and I had to have tenant buyers go to the bank and deposit, and we had to pay the mortgage. It's just a pain in the butt. Now, a student brought us this idea, and we've since bought the company. So that's available to all of you. Prosperity, prosperity.io. Sandra, Tim, Nick, anything I didn't ask that we need to share with the Wicked Smart listener that you can think of?
I have to say Prosperity is awesome. It just takes the workload off of you. You know, if you're working a W-2 and you're trying to manage real estate also, it's like an employee that you don't have on your payroll. You know, the work is just done and it's cost effective, no headaches. You know, you can sleep at night and allows you to manage many other things than just that transaction. So, yeah, it's a great resource.
Love it. Thank you for the feedback. Nick, any last thoughts before we wrap?
No. I'm just happy that everyone has life going on, and Sandra and Tim, I'm just happy that we're able to get to this point because you guys are a testament to just continue to do what you can, take the next step in front of you, and we already got one deal now under your belts, with all that you have going on in your life, and now we're going to get many more. Let's get after it.
I can tell you, if you're not going to QLS in September, October, it's a mistake. We went last year. My husband had a walker. He had just come off of surgery, and they finally released him after many complications. And it was not an easy trip. It is never easy when you're managing someone that's got disabilities. And we made the trip. You will not regret the time that you invest and the money you invest to go there.
I appreciate it, Sandra and Tim, and appreciate your commitment. It's a story that relates to that. Nick, I was with Mom the other day, and there was a story on the news. I forget who it was. It's not important. But what I commented was, walking by, it was, wow, they got life going on. And she said right away, everybody has life going on. Like, so it's not an excuse for Tim and Sandra. It's we can find a way to get around it. And that's screamingly obvious here. So congrats, you guys. And hope to see you at the next one, of course, and a couple more creative deals. Not regular, because you're going to keep doing those, right? Well, let's get some more creative deals under your belt. Congrats.
Thanks.
Nick, thanks, Bud, for adding your buyer specialty for the last 10 years.
It's been fun. It's been a ride.
Okay, Wicked Smart listeners, that does wrap up our time together today with Nick and Tim and Sandra. Make sure you check the show notes for all those links that we dropped during the show. The one I didn't drop, I just realized it, and we talked about the automation of the buyer side. You're going to want to get your fingers on our very customized CRM that also now comes with a website, and the website comes with all our done for you videos. So you're not recreating the wheel. Just go to smartrealestatecoach.com/REIBB-pod. That's /REIBB-pod, P-O-D. Make it an outstanding week. We'll see you on next week's episode.
Hey guys, are you simply sick of juggling a dozen different software tools for your real estate business? I know I was, and I know I'm not a tech person, so it was frustrating. A subscription for this, you get a subscription for that, and they don't even work together out of the box. That's very frustrating, especially in the real estate world where your best time spent is going to be out in the field or on the phone with sellers. And now you're stuck hiring a tech guru just to make all that sync up. So let's ditch the chaos and let REI Black Book handle everything. Automate your lead follow-up, track every deal, analyze things quickly for you, make offers all in one platform. In fact, with the Wicked Smart platform, we now have access, if you're in the Wicked Smart community, to all the other associates' properties. Can you imagine that? So you're brand new in the business, perhaps, and your seller looks on your website and sees 20, 30, 40 properties, instant credibility. So you're going to get everything on REI Black Book, from our custom workflows for lead generation all the way to closing. It has it covered. Try it today for just $1, guys. Visit smartrealestatecoach.com/REIBB-DD. smartrealestatecoach.com/REI, B as in boy, B as in boy, hyphen, D as in dog, D as in dog.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Smart Real Estate Coach podcast. If you got value from today's episode, guys, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a future episode. It literally takes one nugget to access some of the things we're doing. And when you're talking the size rather of the paydays, it's an opportunity cost that you can't let go. So don't miss an episode. And for goodness sake, share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you're ready to find your best path for getting started on your real estate investing journey in general, head over to smartrealestatecoach.com/get started. We're going to help you take the guesswork out of your next steps. See you in the next episode.